Ayubowan. So in this lesson, again, we're going to focus on speaking, but mainly speaking part 2 and 3. Now, looking at the topic for today, describe a good service you received. Okay, now this could also be like a letter. Sometimes we are writing, if you're doing general IELTS, right, probably could come up. But here we're mainly going to focus on the speaking aspect, part 2 and 3 probable questions, right? Now, here is the cue card. Describe a good service you received. You should say what was the service, when you received it, who you were with, how you felt about it. Now, having a look at this, received means it is in the past. Okay, so this is in the past, and you would have to talk about a service that you actually received in the past, right? Now, you will have to talk about the topic for 1 to 2 minutes. You will have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. You can make some notes to help you if you wish, okay? So if I was you, I would definitely jot down some notes, right? I would talk about what the service was. Let's say, what kind of service? Maybe you were at the supermarket, maybe you were at another store. I would talk about the service at a clothes store. I would mainly talk about it when I was going to buy a sari, when you received it 2 years ago, in February, mother, I was with my mother, happy, now what have I written here? Happy, repeat purchase, word of mouth, I would say positive in front, positive word of mouth, right? So this is how I felt. Now I'm going to talk about my own experience, right? So talking about a good service I received was in a specific sari shop, okay? And this sari shop is quite famous, and it is a sari shop actually in Peta. So I went here about 2 years ago, early February, 2 years ago, and I wanted to buy a sari for a wedding, okay? And so what the service was actually I was looking for a nice sari. Now, I'm one of those customers who are quite peculiar, right? And I want to make sure that I have the nice color, but it should not be too glamorous, not too less glamorous, you know. It's got to have a nice work. It needs to be a bit dark, matching my skin tone. So I had different, different needs to match. And I got this salesperson. He was amazing. He kept on changing saris and showing me different saris that were available in the shop. At any point, didn't I feel that, he was really feeling that I was a horrible customer? No, never. He kept on offering me more and more saris, and he said, "Oh no, madam, I think this is a good match." And then when I told him, I think the work is too much, he would select something else. So it took about a good solid 1 hour for me to pick out a really good sari. And I was with my mother at this time. She was also pressurizing me to say, let's just get a sari and let's go quickly. But this salesperson was so good, he was so patient, and what I felt that he was really passionate about giving out his services to customers who wanted to buy saris. So at the end, I felt really happy because I got this really nice sari. And what I felt was I would always go back to the same shop and obviously ask for the same salesperson, and repeat purchase would definitely happen because I was one happy customer. Apart from that, I was really happy about it. So I gave out the positive word of mouth to all my friends and said, you know what, there's this really nice person, and if you're going to buy saris, please do go there. At the end, before I stepped out of the shop, I did actually tell the manager that he had a really good salesperson and that he should be treated well. So that was what I recently, or 2 years ago, had a good experience about a good service that I received. Okay, so you can talk about your one. I was a bit here and there, okay, because I wasn't turning back to look at the card, but you could use the same kind of scenario, okay? Right, so let's look at a sample answer, right? Now, introduction, I'm a shopaholic and I love to purchase things, okay? Shopaholic is a person who loves to go shopping endlessly, okay? Now, I just want to go out a bit from the speaking test. And there's this really nice movie that came out in 2009, right? And it's about a shopaholic girl. So if you just type in on Google shopaholic movie 2009, it would come up, right? So the name is Confession of a Shopaholic. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the trailer of the movie. It would be really nice if you could go and actually watch the movie, because one thing is you expose yourself to the language, and you also get to learn the word shopaholic and experience what really it means, all right? So I'm just going to play this trailer for you for a few minutes, probably about 2 minutes, all right?
When I was 7, most of my friends stopped believing in magic. That's when I first started.
So this is how the movie starts.
They were happy.
It's all about
They didn't
shopping.
need money. They had magic cards.
So later she gets into trouble using these credit cards.
Belt, toddled and vintage. Bag.
Or fashionable branded stuff, right?
You know that thing when you see someone cute and he smiles and your heart kind of goes like warm butter sliding down a hot toast? Well, that's what it's like when I see a store.
So in the end, she gets into trouble by purchasing so much of clothes and shoes.
Really declined. How are you going to pay this debt? I know I've made some mistakes, but I'm turning my life around. Fluent in Finnish? Everyone has their resume a little. Sorry.
Okay, and then in the end, she sells all her clothes and shoes and handbags. She has a sale.
I saw him first. Bags? You can do this. Just need to figure out what to write about. Shoes.
Describing investment in the way that women purchase different shoes, that was very clever.
This is a very important magazine. Is this where you should be?
So it would be really nice for you to really watch the movie and understand the normal language and how they speak naturally, the phrases.
You speak Prada?
Rebecca's pretty unique. She's vivacious, inspiring, funny. She's hard to ignore.
Where is it? Where's that credit card?
Confessions of a
Okay, so it's a really nice movie.
That you speak Finnish. There's someone very excited to meet you. Jani! Oh, hei hei!
Hey!
Onpa hauska tavata toinen suomalainen täällä. Siitä lähtien, kun mä oon Amerikasta.
Men like you are the reason I left Finland. Hello?
All right, so watch the movie, and that would be really nice for you, because obviously you'll expose yourself to the natural language and how people speak English, and obviously about the word as well. Okay? So the next bit of the sentence, and I love to purchase things, right? So it would be a nice word, purchase. What was the service? Here I would like to talk about a situation when I received a very good service from a shop in a shopping mall in Jalandhar. Okay? So when you received it and who you were with. Last month, I went there with my cousins to buy some clothes for myself. I wanted to buy a pair of jeans and I had heard about this shop in Viver College which sells jeans of all top brands. We went straight to that shop and the salesman welcomed us with smiling faces. They started showing us various varieties and allowed us to try them on. We were very happy to know that Levi's company was offering a deal. We picked out the colors of our choice and happily made the purchase. 2 pairs of jeans needed slight alteration in length, which they got done within an hour at no extra cost. Okay, so we were very happy with their prompt service. Later on, we enjoyed ourselves at the mall and had lunch there at a food outlet. In the evening, we watched a movie in the same complex. When I came home and showed my jeans to my family, they also liked them a lot. I refer that shop to all my friends and relatives because of their services. Something similar to what I did, okay? So coming back, have a look at when you received it, who you were with, and what it was all about, okay? So last month. Specific time frame, so we use the simple past tense, okay? I went out with my cousins to buy some clothes for myself. You don't say to be bought, okay? To buy some clothes for myself. I wanted to buy a pair of jeans and I had heard, again, past, okay, about this shop in Viver College which sells jeans of top brands, okay? Because you can't say sold because they're actually doing it at the moment as well, okay? We went straight to that shop and the salesman, plural, okay, welcomed us with smiling faces. That's why we say faces. They started showing us various varieties, okay, so different types, and allowed us to try them on or fit them on. We were very happy to know that Levi's company was offering a deal. Okay, so Levi's is a jeans brand, okay, which is famous around the world. We picked out the colors of our choice and happily made the purchase. So again, purchase is a nice word. 2 pairs of jeans needed slight alterations. Slight alterations means a little bit of changes in terms of length, which got done within an hour at no extra cost. So this is important. There are extra services were at no cost. Okay. Nice set of services, and then about how you felt. Okay. So they felt happy, right? And then later on they enjoyed. And they also came back and they would refer the shop. That's why I said positive word of mouth. Okay, positive word of mouth that you give around here. Word of mouth, right? So that is really powerful, and that is when you have a really good customer service, people talk about it more and more. All right. So seems like a nice completed answer for part 2. Now comes in our part 3, the follow-up questions. Here are some examples to follow-up questions, or follow-up questions that you may be asked during the speaking test, which is in the part 3 by the examiner. Okay? So, if you got a card which had Describe a good service you received. These are some of the probable questions that could come up for you in your Part 3 speaking test. What do you think of the relationship between companies and consumers? Now, there's a bit of two words that I would like you to understand. So we have customers and we have consumers. Right? Who are customers and who are consumers? Are they the same? They're different, okay? Now, example, I go out, I buy a bar of soap, I come home, and I give it to my mother and she uses the bar of soap. So when I go to the shop and I buy the bar of soap, I am the customer. But in the end, who is using the bar of soap? That is my mother and she is the consumer, right? So then the customer and the consumer can be different. But for most services, the customer and the consumer are the same people. Now, example, I go to the doctor, I pay for my appointment and I go, right, and I get myself checked. So I'm also the customer and I'm also the consumer, right? So here they are asking us what the relationship between companies and consumers are. So consumer is the end user of that product or service, okay? I think both companies and customers depend upon each other. Right, so can you see when the answer is being brought out, consumers change into customers. You should be very careful when you're bringing out an answer at the exam, okay? Let's have a look at this and then I will also come up with an answer for you, right? I think both companies and customers depend upon each other. Without sales, a company cannot succeed and grow. And without good companies, people cannot get good quality products and services. Thus, thus is a nice linking word. It is not surprising that the leading companies like Apple and Amazon also have the best customer service, okay? So this is a sample answer, right? And if it was that I was to answer the question, now, what do you think of the relationship between companies and consumers, right? So that depends, but I think most of the time, consumers or customers are the king of any company, right? So I would like to first explain that consumer is the end user of a product or service, whereas a customer could be different from a consumer. So both these parties are quite important for a company because they are the people who pass information about the company, and also both categories, that means consumers as well as customers, are really important for a company. Editor අර මොන ටිකේ ඉඳන් ආයි මෙතන ඉඳන් ගන්න. අම්මයි first cut කියන තැන ඉඳන් මෙතන ඉඳන් ගන්න දැන්. So therefore, when people pass good word of mouth or the positive word of mouth, you have more and more customers coming in. So therefore, I think companies cannot grow without consumers, because when they use your product or service, they will feel how good or bad the product or service is. And with that, they will determine if they want to come back and if they want to pass the word around saying that the organization of the company has a good service. So I think it depends. And then for customers as well as consumers, they need to have companies in order for them to get these products or services. So I think it goes hand in hand. So therefore, it's important for either party to keep in touch and make sure that they give good services, okay? Right, so I think that is the relationship between both parties, and that is quite a simple answer, but it's got a lot into it. I hope you now understand the difference between customers and consumers, all right? Okay, moving on. as a customer, what kinds of services would you expect to receive from a company? Okay. I think companies should fulfill their promises most of all. For example, if companies make promises like 1 day installation and promised work should be done within 1 day, I also agree, right? So they should obviously provide the service that they promise to give their customers. In addition, if the product provider doesn't keep up to the standards promised, the company should apologize and reimburse the customers. Quite true. Okay. Now, what we find mostly in Sri Lanka is when you buy a product, they're like, oh, madam, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Okay. But in the end, when you buy it and you go home, you have to wait and wait and wait and wait. Okay. I don't want to talk about brands, but I've had really bad experience with service providers for TV connections or telephone connections, which was really traumatizing. Okay. So what I feel is, as a customer, we would expect the company to provide a service which doesn't keep the customer waiting for too long and doesn't, make the customer come back over and over to talk about the same issue, right? Because customers are really important for an organization, and therefore they should be able to sort out issues quickly. And if there is a problem, then say, okay, madam, can we have a look at it? We'll come back and replace it, or we'll reimburse the money. It's not always about reimbursing, but it could be that you replace the product, okay? And if it was an unpleasant service, then you could offer them 1 free time service or something like that, okay? And if I was to answer this, I would also bring out a personal experience and share with the examiner, right? So I remember when I was working in this cake shop, we sent out a cake, but unfortunately some of the cupcakes were squashed. But I actually had to go in and sort it out. So I took a few new cupcakes, but obviously it wasn't the same flavor, but we took extra. And, we spoke to her. We were able to settle the customer down because it was a wedding. And, it was all okay. At the end, the customer felt relaxed and happy about our service, okay? Even though at the start, it was she who had placed the order with us. She felt angry. Towards the end, she was really happy with the customer service, okay? So it's that you could talk about it. You could bring out an example and explain about this context, right? Next one. What kind of jobs involve coping with the public? I think most service and sales jobs involve coping with the public. I agree so. Services can be anything like car repair, product installation, healthcare services, teaching, etc. Similarly, although online shopping has reduced interaction, sales to a large extent still entail dealing with the public. So yes, even though it's online, oh, is this size available? That size available? Oh, this isn't really fitting. Can I have an exchange? Still it's there, right? So coping with the public is there in more or less every job, which involves dealing with them, such as, car repairs, installing an AC, installing something, coming home and installing your laptop or washing machine or something like that, right? Healthcare services, doctors, nurses, teachers, okay, architects probably sometimes, okay. But they have to deal and make sure that, they handle the public work, okay. So when students come by for teachers, actually, again, you have to be careful because not every student is the same, right? So dealing and coping with these different people is a skill, right? And coping mechanisms should be in practice, all right? And one last question for this topic. Why should companies react quickly when customers have difficulties? Now, personally, I think one reason would be because you don't want an unhappy customer by the end of your sale or business, right? The whole point is to keep your customer happy and to make sure they come back and buy things and they pass the good word around saying that the company provides a good service. So you don't want them to feel left out after purchasing or giving out a service. You want them to feel a part of your business, so it's important that you react quickly. If you take more time, they're going to get upset and unhappy and angry, and that will tarnish the goodwill or the good bond between the organization and the customer or consumer. So let's have a look at this. I think it is important to proactively, nice word, that means quickly, deal with customers' complaints and difficulties because it can harm the brand reputation of the company. And in today's competitive era, brand image is a paramount to success. Quite true. Okay, and since you have social media, they just keep on posting it. Oh, I went here and the service wasn't good, and then people start commenting, and that's it. Okay, you could use your business in just a few seconds, right? In fact, it is also one of the major reasons why companies today are taking on social responsibilities. Okay, so yes, they do corporate social responsibility activities just to keep a good name, right? This is something to talk about, responding properly and reacting actively to what people think, okay? So there are so many case studies if you look out. This is leaving the speaking test. You could have a look at some leading brands like, how Johnson & Johnson, Nestle, Nike responded to customer complaints and changes quickly, okay? Even certain car brands, how they deal with certain inquiries and problems and difficulties when consumers buy these type of cars, okay? I'm not talking about the ones that we use on a day-to-day basis, but the high niche, high-end car market, okay? So read about these things. When you read, you could obviously talk about some examples and show the examiner that you know about the topic, you're passionate. Not only that, you've got good language and sentence structures to talk about it, okay? So the most important thing here is not to be honest, okay? But it's good to be honest. That's why I said if you read, it will help you. But the most important thing is coming out with language and sentence patterns. That is what determines your score, right? So I think with that, we have come to the end of this topic, which was describe a good service you received.